Well, none of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Children have to go back to the roots, yeah. None of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Children have to go back to the roots. I'm telling you now, the truth, the truth. Telling you, yeah, the truth, the truth. You have to go back to the roots, the roots. Go to the roots, to the roots. Yeah, man, you know, this is Benjamin out of the Smiling Coast, West Africa, Gambia, representing for the one and only Abu, the big man you don't know, the Soninke warrior, the man that brings the truth, Soninke warrior, the sign of enlightenment, the Soninke warrior, the righteous and the true African. Abu, reveal the truth to them, you know, no matter how them try run from it, because none of them can hide from the truth, yeah. Yes, we have to dig back the roots, yeah. Fire!
Subscribe now.
I remember the days, all those years ago that never fade away. And I remember your face when you hit the ground. I can recall the time and place on the midnight walk through the old streets, trying to turn back the clock to the days of old, back to the days when all the things we knew were made of gold. As the world moves on, time sings a song. In the old neighborhood, as the clock strikes one, the memory lives just as it stood.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Afridamus Report. I'm your host, Afridamus. Please make sure you hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to, as you can see, says Pan-African News, and I would explain in a short time here. But let's look at the updates from the Sahel. When I say from the Sahel region, because some of our viewers, especially our American viewers, UK viewers, they are not very, their knowledge of, countries and geography is not that vast. So to them, Africa is just a country, but you have Niger, the English call it Niger, French call it Niger. It's different from Nigeria. It's right next to Nigeria. Nigeria is a former British colony, and Niger, they like to say former, French colony, but that's to be debated as we can see, the situations that are happening there. So I was talking about the coup, quote unquote, the coup in Niger, where they removed Mohamed Bazoum, the president there. He's from the Motisa tribe. He's Arab, part Arab. How are you going to be, a Motisa and try to be the leader of the Blatts in the Blatt factory? Just imagine that. So the Blatts are the majority in the army, which makes sense. The Blatts are getting oppressed in the Blatt factory. This should upset every Black in the world. But last week, the conversation we had here, it was very, very interesting. Some of you had very interesting takes, and some of the takes stood out. For example, I'll give you some examples here. I understand that some people, they come here with their grievances against certain countries. We've heard all that here. But some of the grievances that stood out the most, and I find it very, very interesting. Very interesting. For example, Be Brave, the white man, he called in. So he said, okay, these people talking about they're going to fight, they are poor people, they should just accept, quote unquote, the world order. But now, some of you would probably say, oh, look at that. We're not surprised. Be Brave is a colonizer. He's a white man. Of course, he's going to encourage the blacks in Africa not to fight. I understand. I understand. But see, we have to be open to all sorts of conversations. So I also had conversation with African, and I've heard their takes too. Some of them were like, oh, yeah, the same thing. Oh, they are too poor. They don't have medicine. Russia's not going to be by their side. They should just chill. And I gather all these thoughts. And I'm like, wow, this is very interesting. So you're telling me that if somebody, I discover my thief in my own house, and this thief have been stealing from me for years, causing my condition to go down. So I figured out a way. I found evidence, proof, fact that in fact this person that I thought was my relatives, this person that I thought was my friend, this whole time this person was stealing from me. So you mean to tell me, because this person have stolen so much from me now that I'm broke and I've discovered my thief, I should just go along and just coexist with my thief because, quote unquote, this thief is powerful. So the South Vietnamese should have waited till they got, proper medication, they have all these sophisticated weapons to defend themselves against the French than the Americans. Is that what you guys are telling me? But what I've realized, most people, especially Africans, people are going to be upset at this, but most are cowards. They are cowards because now we've come face to face. Because you see, a few years back, people have popularized it right here on these YouTube streets, especially the Western blacks, the blacks that live in fantasy. They all were talking, every time they speak, what do they say? Oh, in Africa, the French are colonizing these countries. What y'all gonna do about it? Oh, they're stealing from you. Oh, we Pan-Africans. Well, the fight is here. Because if you are so brave, we are all Pan-Africans. The fight is here. Yes, the complaint that people have been coming up with online, Burkina Faso heard you, Mali heard you, Guinea-Conakry heard you, Niger heard you, and they took the first step. They kicked out the French. Look, some of you like to say, oh, the revolution will not be televised. No, this one is being televised. It's happening right in front of our faces. If people are truly Pan-Africans, if people say they are the originators of Pan-Africans, they are warriors. People like to tell us about things that happened at a time when we weren't even born. But the same situations are happening right now. We are seeing it. And these quote unquote Pan-Africans are pretending not to know that this is happening. But the Sahel is calling unto you. The Sahel needs you. Just like Uncle Sam says, right now, the situation in Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, whom the Niger people have cleverly turned his name into, instead of Bola Tinubu, now they are calling him, Tinubu Ebola, after the, popular virus that they try to accuse us Africans of carrying a few years back. But now they are calling him a virus because you see, Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, he jumped the gun. Because here's the thing, this fight is clearly between France and the black Africans. Let's just be honest. So can your colonizer, let's be honest, Your white colonizer can never be your friend. It's not possible, because whatever your colonizer come up with, their ideas is not to uplift you. They are not thinking about you. You are an afterthought in their world. This is the truth. If you don't even know this directly, you can just read books. You can see the condition of Africans. How are, like, places like Niger, this place we talking about, Niger, they have large deposits of uranium. They have large deposits of gold. And of course, I've seen some people, you know, they would say, oh, France doesn't get most of its stuff from there. Are you serious? They try to gaslight Africans. And some of you silly Africans, because you have this jealousy in your heart against other Africans, instead of understanding that this right here, if you ever want to fight for justice, this is what justice is. So you mean to tell me France getting their uranium from Niger, which is supplying electricity in France? France, pretty much the whole country is lit up. Majority, Niger, they don't have electricity. In fact, Nigeria, which Nigeria is usually in darkness, but the Nigerians found a way to be able to sell electricity to Niger. You talk about the gold in Niger. Why are the people in Niger poor? So don't you think who's not even from Niger, you that's on the internet, that is able to complain about these things, imagine the people living there. Don't you think they know this? But what did they do? They took a Motisa tribe. Of course, it's always the light skin from the Motisa, because Negroes are always upset. Negroes like to complain and be like, yo, hey, how you gonna be taking all our gold? They start murmuring that stuff. The French are like, all right, let's bring a Motisa over. And this Motisa, he can be over the blacks. This is what they did in Niger. And not long ago, that very Motisa president, Mohamed Bazoum, what did he do? Goes out there, quote unquote, he's giving a speech, but he's talking about how his army is useless against the terrorists that is attacking Burkina Faso, Mali, and that very country. So how are you going to be the leader of the country and saying such things about your troops? Well, guess what? Mohamed Bazoum now he's finding out if this military is useless or not. So if you ever wondered if Pan-Africanism, where it started or where it is at, let's not go back to the 1920s. It is happening right this very minute. And the Africans in the Sahel are not marching, begging the French. In fact, they are kicking the French the hell out of their countries. They are like, you need to get the hell on out of here. And Nigeria, their president, Bola Tinubu. This man, Bola Tinubu, he is trying to bring embarrassment on the whole of Nigeria. How are you going to fight a war next door to Niger? And Niger, these people are not giving up. They are willing to fight. It's not like one of those things where, you are so strong, you are Debo, punching people in their face and they're not punching back. No. These people in Niger are serious. They are very serious. So Nigeria goes on, Bola Tinubu, who have no experience. I don't know how this man even became president, because his decisions right now, as we are seeing, it's not sound. So Bola Tinubu goes and gives the order to shut off electricity from Niger. And guess what? Niger they are not delinquent in their bills. But Bola goes ahead And he did this, and he brought the Nigerian army on standby. He is thinking, okay, I am the president of West Africa. But when they brought it to the Senate, the Nigerian Senate, we got to give a big shout out to the Nigerian Senate. The Nigerian Senate voted against it, and they've put Bola Tinubu in his place to let Bola Tinubu know that he is not even the king of Nigeria, much more West Africa. But now, the sanction that Bola Tinubu, put against Niger is now backfiring on Nigeria, because now Niger, they close their airspace. You see, now there is a problem. And they threaten Niger, telling them that, oh, if you guys don't reinstate the president that you guys kicked out, we would invade. This is coming from Bola Tinubu. He did not even consult with his Senate in Nigeria. He did not consult with the Nigerian people to see how the Nigerian people feel about this. He thinks he can just go ahead. He thought this is Sierra Leone and Liberia. But it isn't, because in Sierra Leone and Liberia, we get it. Nigeria, you came in, it was to liberate those people there. And everybody's like, oh, all hails to Nigeria. You did good. But now, how are you going to go to a country, invade a country that the people that you are supposed to quote unquote liberate are celebrating that very government that is in place? So you guys know Nigeria, I shouldn't even say Nigeria, because Nigeria, their Senate, they gave it a thumbs down. And many Nigerians are upset about this. They are very upset. How can Bola Tinubu come up with such a stupid decision like this, embarrassing a large country like Nigeria, where now small boy countries are looking at Nigeria like, they're no longer the ogres of the region. This is what is beginning to happen, because now you look at it, Nigeria shut itself down. So Burkina Faso steps up. They said, if you attack Niger, you have declared war on us. This is coming from Burkina Faso. We've never seen this type of unity amongst Africans like this. Believe you. Because Burkina said, we are standing with our brothers and sisters next door. If you attack them, you are attacking us. Mali did the same. Guinea did the same. So now imagine. So now even Nigeria's imports, and even you Nigerians that are flying, now your ticket is going to be much more expensive, because the flight can fly over Niger if they don't, sort this situation out quickly. So imagine if Burkina Faso, go ahead and watch the map. If Burkina Faso decides, okay, fine, we're going to shut our airspace. Mali did the same. Go look at the route. Nigeria, you think now you have inflation? Your inflation is going to go through the roof. So this is why, Nigerian, ECOWAS, Bola Tinubu and ECOWAS need to chill. The deadline have come and gone. They haven't done anything, and they will not. So let me show you the youngest president in the world. You know how people like to come out here, they, talk about Thomas Sankara. Well, there's a man who is literally Thomas Sankara reincarnated. He is alive and well with us here. So why, he's speaking. He said he's speaking for his generation today. He's not talking about those who are gone. We would learn We learn from those people, but we live in the present times. Let me show you. Let me show you his speech in in Russia, because some people like to say, some of these fake Pan-Africans, oh, like Africa needs them, but they can never tell you what Africa needs you for. But Africa countries, especially the new brand of Pan-Africans, are not beggars. They are putting all of this on Africa, African people to do it, you know, on their own, which is what is fair. Let me do my fair use and play this video. All right. So let me play, the president of Burkina Faso, the speech he gave in St. Petersburg. Because the last time I heard some people in the chat, they're like, oh, you kick out one colonial master or another master. See, this is the type of language you guys have to drop. Many of you are still programmed to be slaves. The way you speak, the way you reason, it shows that you are still mentally enslaved. Don't you see that what is happening in Africa? The shackles of mental slavery, the first step has been broken. Now it's in the physical, going, toe to toe, face to face with the enemy. Because I heard France is preparing to go alone, even if ECOWAS doesn't go. I think France, and they said they would come with some Central African countries. Maybe it could be Cameroon, Gabon. But if Cameroon enters that war, that will be a big mistake, because we would know that we would mark Cameroon as the biggest sellouts in West Africa. But we understand, like Cameroon, Paul Biya, he's a French sellout. But because I heard France is planning to come, even if ECOWAS doesn't, they're going to attack. They are planning on coming with either Cameroon, they're saying Cameroon and, Central African Republic. But Central African Republic, I think they're rolling with Russia. So what you guys don't understand is sometimes your enemy's enemy is your friend. So you have to be able to use that to your advantage. So Africa is not looking to be under anyone's foot. Africa is not looking to march, as you are about to see here, because these people are ready to go to war. They are not marching. They are not marching. That's just the truth. So your brand of Pan-Africanism, and especially those of you that are in Africa, this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity. If you have been, all you've been doing is drinking and partying, time to stop, start exercising, get into that gym. This war, if it ever happens for the Pan-Africans, the military age, would start from 16 to 52. 16 to 52. So all hands on deck is needed. So if you are truly a Pan-African and you've always been talking about, man, in the 60s, if I were around, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Well, here it is. Clearly, a white country, France. This is like Haiti all over again. Haiti all over again. So now you don't even have to romanticize Haiti. This is your battle. Every black person around the world. If France goes in, I would love to see you guys come in. Okay? But I don't think that would happen because of the Pan-African, quote unquote, have given a public statement on this issue. And I would read that to all of you here in a second. G Black, thank you for the super chat. He said, I need Wedo to me is dead. Okay, you mean ECOWAS? You say ECOWAS is dead to you. Hey, it might as well be. But thank you for the super chat. Let me show you, introduce you to the world's youngest El Presidente. Here we go. The president of Burkina Faso. If you are not watching on the television or on your screen, start watching it, because this is in French. It's got subtitles. Here we go.
Hooray blows hot in Russia. Calls on African leaders to forge new alliances.
Actuellement, nous sommes là pour parler de l'avenir de nos peuples, de ce qui va advenir demain, de ce monde libre auquel nous aspirons, de ce monde sans ingérence dans nos affaires internes. Nous avons les mêmes perspectives et je souhaite que ce sommet soit l'occasion donc de pouvoir tisser de très bonnes relations en vue d'un meilleur avenir de nos peuples. Les questions que mes générations se posent sont les suivantes, si je peux me résumer, c'est de ne pas comprendre comment l'Afrique, avec tant de richesses sur notre sol, avec une nature généreuse, de l'eau, du soleil en abondance, l'Afrique est aujourd'hui le continent le plus pauvre. L'Afrique est un continent affamé. Et comment se fait-il que les chefs d'État traversent donc le monde à mendier? Voici des questions que nous nous posons et que nous n'avons pas de réponse jusque-là. Nous avons l'occasion de tisser de nouvelles relations. Et j'espère que ces relations puissent être les meilleures pour donner un meilleur avenir à nos peuples. Pour ce qui concerne le Burkina Faso, aujourd'hui nous sommes confrontés depuis plus de 8 ans à la forme de manifestation la plus barbare, la plus violente du néocolonialisme, de l'impérialisme. L'esclavage qu'on tend encore à nous imposer. Nos dévanciers nous ont bien appris une chose. L'esclave qui n'est pas capable d'assumer sa révolte ne mérite pas que l'on s'apitoie sur son sort. Nous ne nous apitoyons pas sur nos sorts, on ne demande pas que quelqu'un s'apitoie sur notre sort. Le peuple burkinabé a décidé de lutter.
Did you guys see what he said here? A slave that doesn't even want to, I'm paraphrasing, a slave that don't even want to fight for its own freedom, doesn't deserve any pity. He said they've been fighting a barbaric war against jihadists, quote unquote terrorists, that's been, attacking their country. So they're not marching. As you can see him in his military fatigue. This tells you this guy, he's 34 years old. They are about action. They are out there fighting. So the talk is over. This guy is telling me they've been fighting for over 8 years. So this whole time, these Pan-Africans are online talking about, oh man, look at French West Africa. What are they doing? Well, you're seeing it. You're seeing it. He said he doesn't need any sympathy from anyone. They don't want anyone to feel sorry for them. They would fight this on their own. They are ready to fight.
Lutter contre les terroristes en mesure de relancer son développement. Dans cette lutte, des vaillants peuples, des vaillantes populations se sont engagées à prendre les armes face au terrorisme. Ceux que nous avons affectueusement appelés les VDP, des volontaires. Nous sommes surpris de voir des impérialistes traiter ces VDP de milices et de tout type. C'est décevant. Parce qu'en Europe, lorsque des peuples prennent les armes pour défendre leur patrie, on les...
Guys, look at how proud she is over here. Look at that. Look at how proud she is. You see? And what he's saying is true. It is disappointing because in Europe, when people take up arms, they call them patriots. This is true. But look at them when blacks, Africans, take up arms and say, we are going to fight for the integrity of our territory. People come up with all sorts of excuses. Oh, these countries are too poor to fight. So what about the slaves in Haiti? So they should have just said, oh man, we are too poor to fight. Don't you think they would have still been, under the French? They would have never been freed. In fact, being poor is way enough reason for you to even fight. You have nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing.
de patriotes. Nos grands-pères ont été déportés pour sauver l'Europe. Ce n'était pas avec leur consentement, contre leur gré. Et bien au retour, on se rappelle bien qu'à Tiaroy, lorsqu'ils ont voulu revendiquer leurs droits élémentaires, ils ont été massacrés. Cela ne fait rien donc. Lorsque nous, peuple, nous décidions de nous défendre, on nous traite de milices. Mais là n'est pas le problème. Ce qui est le problème, c'est de voir des chefs d'État africains qui n'apportent rien à ces peuples qui se battent, mais qui chantent la même chose que les impérialistes en nous traitant de milices, en nous traitant donc d'hommes qui ne respectent pas les droits de l'homme. De quels droits de l'homme parle-t-on? Nous nous offusquons contre cela et c'est honteux. Il faut que nous, chefs d'État africains, nous arrêtons de nous comporter donc en marionnettes qui dansent à chaque fois.
See, this is how a true African speaks with your chest. Well, you going in front of the white people crying, talking, oh, man, give me this. He said, even you, he said, white people, the Europeans saying these things about them, he said, they take offense to it. He said, they take offense to it. And now he's calling out these African heads of states. He said, we African heads of state must stop behaving like puppets. Every time the imperialist call, you jump, so guys, like pretty much everything that you people have been crying for, he's saying all the exact things. And he's not only talking, as you can see, this man he's in the trenches fighting a war.
Fois que les impérialistes tirent sur les ficelles. Hier, le président Vladimir Poutine a annoncé donc l'envoi de céréales en Afrique. Nous sommes bien contents. Nous lui disons merci pour cela. Mais aussi, c'est un message passé à nos chefs d'État africains. Parce qu'au prochain forum, nous ne devons pas venir ici sans avoir assuré, pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas la guerre, l'autosuffisance alimentaire de nos peuples. Nous devons prendre l'expérience de ceux qui ont pu déjà atteindre cela en Afrique, tisser de bonnes relations ici et tisser de meilleures relations avec la Fédération de Russie pour pouvoir assouvir les besoins de nos populations.
On the 27th of July 2023, the world's youngest president, Ibrahim Traoré, sent social media into a frenzy when he said Africa, with all its richness in natural and mineral resources, is still so poor and its leaders need to run to the West for aid. He made this comment while attending the second edition of the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg, Russia, that took place between the 27th of July and the 2nd of July 2023. The 34-year-old also called on African leaders to forge a stronger alliance to ensure a better future for its people.
You guys see that, right? That's Ibrahim Traoré, the current president of Burkina Faso. So those of you that used to say, oh, Thomas Sankara, because for some reason, you guys are obsessed with, dead Pan-Africans. Well, we have living ones. It's not only talk. Now people have to be ready to go join the movement that is happening. Let me give you a quick analysis, because see, you guys are familiar with Oshay from the Kinganda, right? So he likes to make titles up somehow. So, but he tries to pretend to know African politics. So now this should be his field where, the people are counting on him to bring the news to them. So let me show you what Oshay wrote a statement, because the people are demanding. They said, hey, Oshay, please send us, what is the news? Because he said he is the Repat podcast. He is representing Black Americans in Africa to bring them the latest scoop. Because I've been telling you guys, Oshay pretends he wants to act like, because again, obsession with dead people, pretending like he knows African politics. So if this guy is about reality, not just entertainment and clown show, let's see what Oshay, the statement he wrote. Because you see, when the rubber really meets the road, it's so easy, guys, to to pretend I'm a Pan-African, blah blah blah, especially in Africa. Online you can do that, but when reality hits like this, because now he knows this might become an all-out war, because if France makes the move, now it's going to be at first about Niger, but is gonna eventually turn into blacks versus white people. That's what it's gonna turn into. I know people are not gonna want to hear that, but that is what the truth is going to be. And I'm sure they're gonna de-escalate because the United States, even Biden, here's the thing. Biden himself did not even call. He's not calling what is happening in Niger. He's not referring to it as a coup. Because you know why? If he calls it a coup, that would mean United States would have to cut all ties immediately with Niger. They have over 1,500 American troops in Niger. They have the largest drone, center, American drone center in Niger. So guess what? Biden, the United States, are not going to call these people coupists. They're not going to do it because they don't want these ties to be severed. You think the United States is going to, put its neck on the line for France? They are not doing this. This is why France is possibly talking about getting Cameroon and those other countries. Here, let me show you what your favorite Pan-African said here in his community post. So here we go. So this is the latest. He said, "Hello, Kinganda family. Many of you have wanted us to cover the Niger coup information. Rightfully so, because you are the Pan-African correspondent over there. So the people are saying, hey, Oshay, why don't you talk about it? Because you say you want to talk about Africa." And he goes on, he said, "While we are getting familiar with the situation, we work really hard on the podcast to produce that content." Okay, Mr. O'Shea, sounds like you're trying to come up with excuses, but let's go. "It is difficult and expensive to produce our pre-scheduled content for the channel." Oh my Lord. So, sir, you mean to tell me you got enough time to talk about Nigerians? You got enough time to try to pretend to talk about Congolese. You got time to, do Ugandan speed dating. But now Niger, it is expensive to do it. Okay, let us continue. "We hope you understand. Other channels related to this assist with such as African Diaspora News." You see, if they truly want people to get the good news, the real news, did he mention the Afridamus report? No. He is mentioning another fake Pan-African channel. He said, "For your information, if we have the time, we can cover it for you in our best way. Thanks again and respect to Niger." Oh, what a cap. Did you guys see? So Oshay had plenty of time in his hand to put propaganda hit pieces on Akon, okay, and other people. Every day he's putting out propaganda hit pieces on them. So now Niger, Burkina Faso, if there is ever a moment that people that, if you want to support Pan-Africanism, the urgency, the people that would need other people to know about what is happening in their backyard, that would be Niger and Burkina Faso. If you're truly a Pan-African, this information is everywhere. But you know what? Since the Afridamus report, I'm generous with people. I went ahead and, brought a video that would analyze and break it down for people like Oshay to know what is happening in Niger. I have a video here. Give me a moment. Here. So first of all, Nigeria can't even afford to fight this war. Let's make that clear. Okay, but here we go.
We're joined now by our correspondent in Nigeria, Chinwe Osundu. Chinwe, thank you for being with us. There was pushback from in regard to Nigeria's president over this idea of a military intervention. Did President Bola Tinubu speak too soon when he threatened, as the new head of ECOWAS, a military intervention?
So I guess the presidents, amidst other presidents of head of states of ECOWAS members, and just the fact that the coup just happened, I think all of them crossed and did not really gather essential facts to arrive at that decision. And of course, they did not gather enough information and did not even foresee what was going to happen if they actually altered or voiced out such a decision, because normally if there's a coup in Niger and it was just isolated Niger, it should have been a different case. But when we start seeing allies from Mali and Burkina Faso who have suffered the same thing and different measures were used on them, then there should be a problem. We can see they actually spoke too soon. But of course, the Senate in Nigeria had many reasons to actually fight this decision, given the fact that Nigeria cannot afford such an intervention right now with the economic crisis and the high inflation we have in Nigeria. The fuel subsidy has just been scrapped off, and we just try to save $1 trillion. So Nigeria is actually looking forward to better its economy and also fight insurgency and Boko Haram in the north, especially in the north and in the southeast of Nigeria. According to the Senate, the president should actually look for further ways or diplomatic ways to mediate this problem that is taking place in Niger and not really go for military intervention. Nigeria can't afford that right now as the highest contributor in ECOWAS.
As for the summit that's planned for this Thursday, can you paint a picture for us of what to expect? Does ECOWAS have any negotiating power with the junta in Niger?
Yes, ECOWAS will always have a negotiating power with the junta in Niger. Just they have to find out a strategy. They have to design a strategy that will help them, bring them to the table. Yes, they've had immediate sanctions that is taking place in Niger, such as the electricity cut from Nigeria that is already taking place, and some other sanctions like no-fly zone. Yes, Niger has closed its airspace, but remember that Nigeria and Niger, they share borders. 7 states, northern states in Nigeria actually share a very porous border with Niger. And so there's a lot of commercial activities. This will actually penalize both parties, because Nigerians who are also living in Niger as refugees said they don't want this military intervention. So it's going to be a two-way thing. Now, ECOWAS should find a way come Thursday to diplomatic ways, as the U.S.
All right. So as you can see, that analysis, those of you who say, like Oshay and others, we don't know what's going on in Niger. Well, I hope this analysis helped you. Well, yes, the old man is Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria. John Zola, thank you for the super chat. He said the Sahelians are giving France that Alabama brawl energy. Oh yeah, I mean, black people have been going crazy lately. Thank you for that super chat. I'm gonna have to. I plan on doing a show on that, shortly too. Let's see here. The Black, thank you for the super chat. He said, Onibo, where to West African Trade Communion or tactical optics. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if that would work with, the type of language here, but shout out to the Nigerian Senate, they stepped it up. They are like, look, man, this is not going to happen. So let me tell you, right? Let me show you ECOWAS, obviously, ECOWAS, there's no ECOWAS intervention if Nigeria cannot go. Nigeria is the largest contributor, and they have to come up with the largest portion of the troops. So as you can hear, currently Nigeria's economy cannot sustain this war because Nigeria has its own internal issues. You see, Niger is way, way too close. I mean, as you can hear, How many states? They share, it's pretty much the same country. It's pretty much the same country. So right then, and you look at even Benin, which is quote unquote, people might have thought, they are French puppet. They are not even respecting this quote unquote sanction against Niger. So Africans are united in this. So even Nigerians are against it. It's just their president. So these presidents are in big trouble because see, these people, what they never thought this would backfire. These people have been corrupt for ages. I mean, not Tinubu, he just became president, but he's been in government forever. So many governments are very nervous right now, even Senegal, because you see, if there's a coup in Senegal, because Senegal now would be the last stronghold of the French in West Africa. Then if Senegal falls to anti-imperialists, so the French, who else can they count on? Because Benin is not going to go along. Then Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast, any puppet in Ivory Coast at this point will not survive too long. Will not survive too long because they're going to need the support. Whoever is president in Ivory Coast will have to, be on the same page with Burkina Faso, with Mali, Guinea. So we all know where those countries stand. We know where those countries stand. So, Ivory Coast doesn't have, the French don't have that much chance there. So the French would probably only have their strongholds in the next coming years. I see probably they're going to continue to hold Cameroon, Gabon, Congo, Brazzaville. You see, those Central African countries there, because Central African Republic itself, they're having a hard time. Chad is 50-50. Chad, they are very volatile. You don't know, like the French can't control that. So the only other place the French can control is Cameroon, Gabon, and Congo, these places that and Senegal and Ivory Coast. So let me give you the update on, since the deadline came and gone on Sunday, let's see if ECOWAS came in with their big boy guns and started, shooting. Let's see here.
Time's up. A deadline set by the regional economic group ECOWAS to reinstate Niger's democratically elected president Mohamed Bazoum has expired. Even the bloc's threat to use force didn't persuade the ruling junta to step down.
Nowhere in this contemptuous and belligerent attitude did these leaders of ECOWAS even take into account the sovereignty of our country, the suffering of Nigerians who have already made enormous sacrifices to date, the interests of our population and those of Niger.
ECOWAS has already imposed severe economic sanctions on Niger, including suspending major energy transactions. ECOWAS is the UN's economic body for West African nations. It has 15 members, including Nigeria, Senegal, and Ghana. It suspended 3 of its members before Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, following military coups in all 3 countries. The military arm of ECOWAS intervened in Liberia in 1990, Sierra Leone in 1997, Mali in 2013, with its most recent military operation in the Gambia in 2017. But when ECOWAS threatened to launch a similar operation in Niger, it didn't go down well with junta leaders in the region.
We warn that any military intervention against Niger will be considered as a declaration of war against Burkina Faso and Mali.
Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are all former French colonies. And anti-French sentiment is running high, while Russian and Chinese influence in the countries is growing. while the Kremlin has expressed concern over the situation and called for a return to legal order, the Wagner Group's founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, appeared to hail...
So as you guys can see clearly, the people don't want the French there. So anybody that the French are choosing, they would oppose that person too. They want to rule themselves. They don't need puppets. So here we go.
The coup in a voice message published on social media. That's as ousted President Mohamed Bazoum warned in an opinion piece published in the Washington Post that the region was at risk of falling further under Russian influence via the mercenary group, which already operates in, and in some cases, destabilizes several countries. France still has around 1,500 troops in Niger. Niamey is...
So guys, did you guys catch that? Okay, imagine, so their president, he wrote a hit piece in the Washington Post. He's president all the way in Niger. So he is snitching on his own country. He is supposed to be the president of the country, right? He's supposed to be the president. But this man months ago is writing snitch pieces in the Washington Post. Who is he talking to in the Washington Post? Which crowd? So you're coming over telling the Washington Post, these Nigerians here, pretty much he might as well say that. But he's supposed to be the president. Do you guys think that man was the overseer of that big plantation? I mean, think about it for a minute. The president snitching on his own country. Who is he working for? The people or the French? So these military guys in Niger, these people know what they are doing. They got rid of a snitch and an overseer. Don't you guys see that? The president, some of these presidents, like in some of these countries, these are the snitches for their masters in Paris and New York. Some of the pieces you see in the quote-unquote New York Times, Washington Post, such and such said it, those are snitch pieces. They are sending information to certain people. Just saying. So the jig is up. The man got caught snitching. They didn't trust him. They found out, hey, he's a puppet, because some of you sometimes, like when you hear, you like, oh, he's just a puppet, right? You think, okay, maybe these people are just complacent. Maybe they don't know whatsoever, right? But they just want to steal a little bit. No, literally some of these people, as you can see, you think they are the president. They're against the people. No wonder these countries, most of them are not progressing. Yeah. You are supposed to have vision for the country, but little did they know, you are with the exploiters, the ones that are exploiting the country. Because, the French, they look at it like this is their personal property. That's how they look at it. They, in fact, think Africans are their personal properties. This is why sometimes you see even some of the white people, when they hear Africans talk this way, they get upset because they're like, how dare you? You poor, dusty Africans. Well, we are tired of being poor and dusty. And some would say, oh, you Africans know nothing about gold and diamond. Yes, maybe in the past, which we don't have proof. But now we know. So what is the excuse? It's like, telling a child, who grew up and they know how to drive, you're still trying to convince them, no, you don't know how to drive. Let me drive you. No, sir, why do you want to constantly volunteer to be my driver? Like, what's going on? Why can't I just drive myself where I want to go? But the French are refusing, telling Niger, Burkina Faso talking, hey, guys, come on, man. Let me continue being your Uber driver. They're like, nah, player. Service is terminated. Your service is done. And then they remove the president. France gets mad. So you see, that means their cover is blown, because that means their inside man was that president. He was the inside man. This is why France is upset.
Is one of its last allies in the Sahel after it was forced to withdraw from neighboring Mali earlier this year. In the past week, protests in Niamey suggested there is a strong anti-French sentiment, at least among protesters.
Really now, we are free today. Nobody thought this day would come. At last, the people of Niger are free to move.
After France suspended ties with Niger, announcing sanctions along with the EU, Niger's junta responded by revoking military deals with Paris. And sanctions have already started to bite, with food prices soaring. Many are now wondering if ECOWAS has any more cards to play, as the situation in Niger becomes increasingly fragile. Kübra Akkoç, TRT World.
All right, you guys have seen that. You guys have seen the updates that is happening in the Sahel. Obviously, I knew that ECOWAS, they weren't gonna fly. They weren't gonna do what they did so quickly when it was Gambia. I told you guys this because you see, Gambia is a small country, like 2 million people. So when the former president Yahya Jammeh, the guy came on TV, he accepted defeat, but then he came back, made another announcement like, we have to redo because there was some fraud. It's like, nah, man, dude, you already accepted defeat. Gambians, everybody heard it, so you got to go. So he's like, I ain't going nowhere. And he's the one with the army and everything. So they started negotiating with him. And eventually, at first, he wanted to fight. But Nigeria put their troops together real quick. Senegal, they flew in. And they didn't waste any time. In fact, with Yahya Jammeh, they didn't even let him have, like, when they were like, we give you till the 19th. They started showing up in the tent. But look at Niger, next door, not even far. They're like, we're going to show up on Sunday. Niger is like, you know what? You ain't about to show up. In fact, we are closing our airspace. So now if you cross over, we would know you are here, for fight. So we would have to do something. So obviously, ECOWAS is now backpedaling, talking about all kind of stuff, all types of excuses. Nigeria can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to cause carnage in the region. But what if Yahya Jammeh decided to fight? When they're going to cause carnage in the Gambia? What if he decided? If he didn't decide to leave, he's like, F it, I'm going to fight. So they would have taken action because they were guaranteed to win because Gambia was standing alone. The country that Gambia is surrounded by is the country that's the biggest puppet, Senegal. They wasted no time like Senegal soldiers, they can literally walk in, guys. They can literally walk in. It's that type of situation. But now let me bring you an analysis here. Someone sent this to me and I promised to do the analysis from the Kinganda channel. It said it's a Pan-African channel because there are many of the blacks that say they're Pan-Africans and they live in La La Land, delusion. We are no longer in La La Land because as you can see what is happening in the Sahel, there is no joke happening. But some of these blacks are talking about, oh, we, Africans need us. Oh, they're still talking that crazy talk, even if the conversation is not about that. Anyways, at least on the Kinganda channel. So this conversation was supposed to be interesting, but obviously, Oshay have some things in his chest that he needs to get off about Africans, right? So even though the conversation is not about Africans, as usual, he made it about Africans. Let me set it up here. Fair use. This is for edutainment purposes only. So anyways, the title is African Americans are to blame for refusing to build in Africa. So Oshay, just like the other blacks who come up with the argument, they would make them put themselves in this position and say, like they would say things like, oh, African Americans are blamed for this and this. To me, they just want to enter the conversation, because which African country is calling saying the blacks should come and build for them? I don't know any. If anything, they are saying, oh, the ones that you come to, they already have encountered people that came there. They are begging for land. But let's see how Oshay changes this conversation here. And the interesting part is this guy here, Master Agabe, very smart, brilliant African guy. And this is the same thing here because he was born and raised here. So sound Africans that live in the United States, for the most part, not all the blacks, but mostly blacks that think like Oshay, talking the way they talk. This is why you wouldn't see them with Africans like myself that live here, because their conversations are generally juvenile. They don't have a clear concept of how other societies work. So generally they have like a preconceived mindset about Africans, and that always comes out in the conversation. So it's no different than there are Africans even who have traveled that live in the United States, UK. Like you would have some people, they would have this big head thinking, the country needs me to develop. They're like, they would lie to the people. I would come and develop, do X, Y, and Z. So many people are catching up, onto that. But let's see what Oshay says about this conversation here. Let me start it.
How many African presidents do we got to go all the way down the line? And there are many that have stolen resources. And so I need to invest in Africa. So if I invest in Africa, if you steal from the IMF and the World Bank, what does that tell me? You're going to steal from the money that the African Americans would invest there.
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita Maya and this is the Read Part podcast. Now, I do want to give Gabs his flowers, guys. Gabs is going viral somewhere. He is famous on the internet, guys.
Let's inflate the already self-aggrandized ego that he already has about himself.
Damn, guys.
Yes, guys.
Gabs don't be fooled. They don't sound sincere, but just my observation, the intimidation. Let this man enjoy what he's doing. But let's go.
But yeah, tell the people who you are, Mr. Celebrity.
No, man, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a regular guy with some strong opinions that happen to make people feel some type of way. But no, Master Gabs Agabatumsime is my name. By the way, why you use my full government name in your caption? Damn, guys. I guess because
it was the social media team. They used your full, yeah, they did.
Put my whole government name in your goddamn.
Well, you have your LinkedIn out there.
Anyway, point I'm making is I'm Master Gabs and I'm here. Right. And I ain't going any goddamn where.
Right.
Let's go.
Okay.
I hope they don't deport me, but anything is possible. But Oshay Dick Jackson, African American, Sacramento, California. Let's get into it.
Okay. Shout out to Daily Wrap Up daily wrap-up crew.
Yep.
This video with Dr. Omar Johnson. Watch this with us.
Answer. There will be political, economic consequences for letting our people get mistreated in your land. We don't have that. And the reason we don't have that is because we have not helped to build a single African state into the power base we need her to be so she can speak out for us. We have used our money to empower all these nationalities and use almost none of it to empower Africa, the very continent we need to do what you just said, be strong enough to be a diplomatic voice for American Africa.
You know, respect to Dr. Umar.
So, you guys, you hear the premise of the conversation. So the conversation is, it makes sense. For example, like the Chinese, you don't see, he's saying the Chinese, for example, they're not getting mistreated, right? Because of their government, right? But blacks, they are Americans. But what Dr. Omar is saying, if blacks would have come together in America and, you know, let's say choose a African country that they empowered, that African country can speak on their behalf. And he is correct. If they put into a country's economy, they are recognized there, and that country recognize them, they become, it's like there's a tie. But so Dr. Umar is saying, hey, we are treated the way we're treated because we do not have a power base. So if we had created that power base, help build an African country, we can rely on them in the United Nations. So you see, so the conversation is about the blacks. So that Dr. Umar is not saying Africans are asking for anything from black people or anything. He's just saying if they could have done that, then that would help them have a voice in the UN. So let's see how Oshay takes this.
And I think his mind and his heart are in the right place, but I disagree with his assertion that it's even possible. I don't even think what he's talking about is possible.
Right.
For a couple of key reasons. Number one, you know, there's this whole statement that blacks are not a monolith, right? Africa is not a monolith at the same time. So if you're talking about, you know, blacks in the diaspora investing in.
So Gaps is talking logic, right? So if you guys remember, anyone that talks this way, they'll be, oh man, you try to create division. No, he's correct. When the blacks hear Africa, they think it's a country. And when you try to correct it, because many are, you know, their ego, they want you to just ignore how they feel and just go along with something silly. Oh, it's just Africa and Negro, you all the same. No, but we are not. And that is perfectly fine. Different countries have different interests. They have different needs. So Gaps also is giving his 2 cents. But still, Dr. Umar, let's say if the blacks had empowered Liberia, but of course with the civil war that came, that would be difficult. But let's say Sierra Leone, they have no bad blood with Sierra Leone. Then they can hold Sierra Leone accountable to represent them in the UN.
In Africa, where in Africa are you talking about? Are you talking about here in Uganda? Are you talking about going to Kenya? Are you talking about Ghana, Nigeria, Namibia, all these countries that he mentioned? Where specifically? Be specific, be clear. Don't talk about we going to Africa. Where are you going in Africa? And what policies do they have in place in order to be able to actually make that which you're proposing make sense? Is it even viable to go to Ghana and talk about we're going to come in as an investment block and we're going to eliminate your need to work with, you know, the Asians and the European sources of funding? Is it even viable? Is it even possible? We talked weeks ago on a subject of...
See, Gaps is smart. He's realistic. He is not... I mean, most black people, to be honest, like, it's not only black, most Americans don't even travel. But especially blacks, they barely leave the city where they stay in their town. So most of their education, things they know is from TV and online. So if they say Africa to them is like a Wakandanized type, all these black people running around, jumping around, singing, blah, 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 you know, that's their idea of Africa, not realizing, no, these are countries. So he's asking simple questions like, if you say Africa, Gabs is kicking reality to which country are you guys going to go to? You know, which country? What policies are you going to be asking for? How are you going to even present this? Are you going to be able to come up with enough, pretty much Gabs didn't say this, but with enough capital, enough money to be able to offset, you know, the money that the Chinese are coming in with, the Europeans are coming in with, the Indians are coming in with. Because if you're telling Africans not to trade with these groups, do you have enough money? Well, what people like Oshay would say, oh, we have trillion spending power. No, that's what that's individual incomes. You put it together. That's not a real investment. You know, not every Black person believes in the ideas that you're coming up with. They're not going to throw their money at it. Like, do you have like an organized block as an investment group? You have a bank, like bank here in America. Like, you think you're just gonna walk to Africa and be like, yes, I'm an investor? That's not how it works. You have to come up with money, machinery. You have to be established. You have to have billions of dollars. If not billions, it has to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. That's what you gotta come up with, you know, to be able to walk in. That's why one time I heard one say, oh, Gambia should terminate white Europeans from coming to the tourism and replace it with Blacks. As if the Blacks cannot afford to replace the white people that come there, because white people come with money. Do you have the same amount of money? You know, like what? For some people, this is no shade. I'm not throwing shade at anyone, but we see people complaining about 50 cents increase, equivalent of 50 cents. The Europeans are coming there. They're not only putting money directly into the economy, they're putting money in other people's pocket. The people that sell clothing, the people that sell fruits, juice, all this stuff. You know, those people don't have the time to be, you know, arguing with people about 50 cents equivalent. But European tourists come, they make those people happy. So if you say they shouldn't mess with them, you have to come up, you have to replace, not only replace those Europeans, you have to come up with way better than what the Europeans are giving. All right. Nigerian Prince, thank you for the super chat. Nigerian Prince said, Afridamus, I'm about to get into illegal uranium mining after we invade and take the coupies. Let me know if you are interested. I'll give you a good deal. Nigerian Prince, I don't know. Didn't you hear what is happening? There's not going to be any invasion. The Senate in Nigeria are not going with, you know, Bola Tinubu. And, you know, and they are saying Nigeria cannot afford it. They can't afford it. So sorry to you know, reveal that bad news to you. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. But thanks for the super chat though. And if you ever get in the business, I wouldn't be needing any, but you know, when you make profits, just remember to hit the super chat over here. We do take, you know, super chats. It don't matter what trade it is. I'm just joking.
Of people from the diaspora coming to Uganda and wondering, is it even worth the risk? Right? Because the systems are messed up, because the systems are engineered in a way where it doesn't make investments viable, where it makes it very risky. So to say that, you know, the diaspora has a responsibility to build Africa and grow Africa, okay, it's a great sentiment, but where does the intention of the people in the diasporan community match the intention of the people here to actually be able to make it happen? What comes first? The chicken, the egg, the cart, or the horse? Who moves first to determine this is what we want, and it's a mutual?
Gabs is spitting some logic. So Gabs is staying within the topic, right? But I don't want to do spoiler here. Let's see how Oshay is gonna enter this conversation.
Mutually agreeable position that we want to be in. I just don't think it's possible. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think it's a viable suggestion to make. I think, you know, it's difficult enough to get Black America decide to support Black businesses in America.
Hello,
right? I was watching something on TikTok the other day where there was a lady dissing Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, for starting this company that he has called Empower Global, where it's a website that is based on supporting and promoting Black-owned businesses and driving the Black American community who are spending disproportionate amounts of their disposable money on white-owned brands. Let them support those Black-owned brands so they can build the economic interests of the Black community in America.
Gabs is making sense. Blacks should trade with each other here first, you know, support each other. You know, that's what he's saying. So P. Diddy, Sean Combs built a platform for that to happen. But as usual, you know, some of the Blacks, some are haters. They would always hate on a Black person doing something good.
That way. And people were like, well, it's not possible. It's not viable. I'm like, if you're shooting that down, how can you then presume to come across the Atlantic Ocean, come to Africa, any country in the continent, and get it done here? It just doesn't make sense to me. So if it can't be done in America, if Blacks can be rallied to support Black-owned brands and Black-owned businesses and recreate Black Wall Street in the country where they currently exist, how are you going to come here in a place where systems operate that you don't understand and make that happen? I think it's pie in the sky thinking. I think it's a nice, but then what? It's a nice thought, but where's the practicality to it? I don't think it exists.
Agabs hit it. He killed it completely. Lozi said, Afridamos, expose the sellouts. Well, Lozi, you've seen I'm exposing the sellouts here. And yeah, people are seeing it. Nigerian Prince, thank you for the super chat. He said, Afridamos, we are gonna hire mercenaries from South Africa and Egypt to invade. Well, you know, they got the Wagner group over there. I think they work with the South Africans. Lozi said, Nigeria, the weakest link of Black race. He's a bloody sellout. Man, Lozi wants to call. He said he wants to call them all out. No, Lozi, I agree with you. This is why we're doing the show. It's not the Nigerian population. Obviously, you know, you see Bola Tinubu's idea doesn't match the Nigerian people's ideas. So let's get back to this one video again. So as you heard, what Gab said makes sense. You have to be established, have a market, have money to think about you can go and invest in a country that you know nothing about. So let's see, you know, what Oshay thinks about this.
Man, I got to get on my tribalistic thing, man, but I just got to do this.
So he's in his feelings. He folded his hand, you know. So instead of hearing what makes sense, he truly is in his feelings. He thinks he's going to express how he thinks Africans are, what he feels about Africans. Even though this conversation is not that, he could come up with solution and be like, no, I'm over here. I've learned X, Y, and Z. Maybe there's Blacks listening. He can give information to. But he folded his hand. He was shaking, meaning he wasn't even listening. He is pissed off at what he said. He's going to make it about tribe. So how is this guy even a Pan-Africanist? I think he is traumatized in Uganda. I don't think this guy can make it there.
I hate to be that brother that was like in 2015 that was very African-American oriented first, but I just like, it's one of those times where I got to do that. Okay, Dr. Umar Johnson is saying that, you know, we need to be spending money with the Blacks, and I agree with that, but investing in Africa.
Dr. Umar did not say that. Dr. Umar said, the way you guys are treated, if Blacks would have came together and help in building in an African country, they would be recognized and get recognition. But Gaps broke it down for you. Like, okay, this is not even possible because you guys don't even have a market to begin with. But here we go.
And I'm sorry, we got to get back to the point of like, how did we get there in the first place? Because Africans were complicit in the slave trade because they didn't look at each other as the same people. So we were there.
So obviously the slave talk comes. So this is what is proving the point. Blacks and sound Africans cannot build together. Here comes the victimhood. So he's bringing up slavery. So are you trying to tell me the people who, if it's Africans that enslave other Africans, like, so what is the point here? So he wants to talk slavery. Here we go.
Okay. So it's hard for me as a person, and I know I have my biases towards these slave castles like Elmina Island. Like, I'm not going to pay for you to show me where you sold possibly an ancestor of mine to come to the New World and then cry and have that experience again. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons why I'm in America and trying to fight myself back onto the continent is because some of our brothers and sisters were complicit in the slave trade on the behalf of whites. Africa has apologized for this. Many heads of state.
Dude, do you see where he's dragging the conversation to? So this conversation is not about Africans, right? So it's about market investments. So if the slaves came from Africa, obviously they were sold by other Africans. Look, these African leaders you're talking about, they can say they apologize for what people did 400-500 years ago till the sun falls down, the sky falls. It's not going to change what happened. It's not going to change it. So here it is. People, we are in the 21st century, almost 22nd century, 2023. We are facing, revolution in the Sahel. Okay? Fighting against the French. So he is trying to give this narrative that most blacks give to make it sound like it's them versus Africans. Because their ancestors were not Africans. They lived amongst Africans, and Africans conspired and sold them into slavery. This is what he wants to make it sound like. So the Africans who were sold into slavery, by the way, did they fall from the sky? Did these people have family where their entire family sold? Are their bloodline, people they came from, their relatives, do they still exist in Africa? If the answer is yes to all this, how can one, logically even make this argument? I know blacks like to come up with it. How can you logically make the argument to make it seem like you were like a completely different group, and this other group came and sold you off because they are used to playing the game? They are familiar with the white man because they are different race from the whites. But that argument cannot fly in Africa. So economic argument, he wants to bring a conversation that is bitter. So if he has all these negative ideas about Africa, why is he in Africa? In any African country, why is he there? Ding, 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 he's not thinking. You see, he's not thinking straight. So his conversations, these are not productive. It's not productive to blacks, it's not productive to Africans. You see, his fans, the people, his followers, they are requesting that he talk about Niger because they want to hear real stuff, what is happening. People, like, we are over here fighting. You want to talk about the transatlantic slave trade, something that is already dead and gone. Why should we continue to talk about the transatlantic slave trade? How did you see how he pointed at Ghana and pretty soon Nigeria? He is not in any of these countries. This conversation is not even about those countries, but somehow he's going to point fingers at those countries and try to paint them with a negative brush. So how is that even building with Africa? The jealousy against Africa is just, like it's consuming Oshay. It's eating him alive. You are seeing it. American Rifleman, thank you for the super chat. He said, A.A. Blatts been failing group economics for years. Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say here. But let's go.
Hey, to Gaba's point, let's reverse it. If African Americans can't support African Americans in the United States, what makes you think they can do it here? If African governments can't even support Africans in here, like, why should I give you money to invest when you guys are stealing money? Like, look at,
did you see how he cut himself? Oshay said he went to medical school, but this is funny. Unless if he was drunk here. Okay. Agabe clearly made it clear to you that since if you cannot do it in America, you did not already do it in America, you won't be able to do it over here. So, you see, he tried to bring that angle. He said, okay, you said, if we can do it there, how can... You're repeating what he said. He agrees. But now he's going to switch it to trying to make it seem like it is, corrupt Africa, blah, blah. Okay, fine, we get it. Sure, there's corruption in Africa, but do you have billions to come and spend in an African country like the Chinese do? Do you? So if you don't have that money, you've never spent it, African government have never stolen from you, who are you to say Africa is corrupt? You can't really say that. You see? You cannot make that statement if you are not from these countries, because those leaders, you have no proof that they are corrupt because they've never stolen your dime. But let's continue.
Sani Abacha, how much money did he steal from Nigeria? Baba Genda.
Tell us how much they stole. See, he wants to talk about Sani Abacha. Okay, Sani Abacha is dead. He knows nothing. So he wants to tell us he knows who Sani Abacha is, but he doesn't know about the coup in Niger that's happening right now. So this guy is just going to throw Nigerian president's name. Did I not tell you guys? It's always about Nigeria, Ghana, and West African countries. But he doesn't live in any of these countries. If you love this country so much, why don't you move over there? How can you know, quote unquote, so much about Nigeria, but you know nothing about Niger? Make that make sense.
Buta Seseko. How many African presidents do we got to go all the way down the line? And there are many that have stolen resources and started to invest in Africa. So if I invest in Africa, if you steal from the IMF and the World Bank, what does that tell me? You're going to steal from the money that the African Americans would invest there. So here's an issue. Like, how much?
Dude, African countries are not stealing from the IMF and the World Bank. It's the other way around. How can they steal from the loan? Dude, it's a loan. What is he talking about? Go online and read about this. Do you guys see how this guy goes hard? He has no problem spreading this negative propaganda on African countries. He said Babangida, Sani Abacha, Mobutu Sese Seko. So he wants to talk about these people. He just threw names out there. But what does he know about them? This is silly, but we have to expose it. Here we go.
Contribution to Africa of African Americans already made. Like, who was the father of Pan-Africanism in Africa? We would say Kwame Nkrumah. Who educated him? African Americans at Lincoln University.
Sir, Lincoln University is not owned by African Americans. It could be, you could say a historical black college, but it is not. The professors are not all African American. So if you want to tell me, for example, like Africans, many, they come here, they go to college. So are you telling me if, I didn't show up here till I'm college age, I go to college, So all the previous education I had from kindergarten, you did not see me till I graduated from high school. So you're gonna take credit saying that you educated me? So he wants to talk about, this is the type of things, silly things Oshay comes up with. This is not productive in our conversations. We don't, Africans especially, like, this guy is not adding anything to the conversation. Let's just be real. He can entertain, sure, because most blacks are into the entertainment. But these are not accurate information. This is not accurate information. Let's just be real. If he wants to complain about Africa, not Africa, he can complain about Uganda. He can do that. Go ahead. But don't take your Ugandan anger out on Nigeria. Let's just be real.
We talk about Afro beats. Fela Kuti, is that what his name?
Yeah.
Fela Kuti? He was doing jazz until he came to the States and got around some woke brothers, and then came after Obasanjo and Sani Abacha.
So you guys notice Africans somehow cannot do anything on their own. It is the blacks who invented all this. That's the angle he's going with. So Fela Kuti didn't know how to play music till he encountered the blacks. I'm just showing you guys a pattern here. This is not different than like what the French and others are. It's a deception. They want you African to feel like you are less than. They want to take credit for even your natural talent, your talent that you were born with. He literally just took, credit. The blacks is giving Kwame Nkrumah, who was raised by his Ghanaian parents, educated him. He didn't show up to the States till his college age. He's taking credit for his education, as if it was blacks that paid his tuition. Okay.
So how much contribution have we to inspire in the Pan-African world? And I'm going to tell you, it's always African Americans need to give Africa this, where's the parity? Like, I have to be honest. It's always you guys in the diaspora need to give this to Africa. And even when I'm going to say this, when Africans come to America and they do very well, you don't really see any parity between them and us. It's not there. It's always, in my honest opinion, I'm gonna tell you the truth. When you come to Africa, nobody is trying to say parity. The year of return is not about parity. It's about give me what you fucking got. And I felt that's offensive I understand. I can get over.
So this guy is just talking just for the sake of talking. Again, so he's talking about parity. What parity is he talking about here? So just because I'm black, I'm African, if I come here, I should interact with you because you're black? Me coming here have absolutely nothing to do with you. You didn't pay my ticket. You don't know me from Adam. So you in Uganda, there's the blacks there. Are you, just because they are blacks, you're from America, are you giving them money because you're all blacks? This doesn't even make sense.
Over that, and there are some brothers out there that will give you some parity in Africa, but that's not the case. The diaspora, not including just us, Ugandan Americans, Ugandan British, Caribbeans, Nigerian Americans, they all be, once you leave here, you become like one of us too. Hey, we don't owe you nothing. You could be a Nigerian American, can't even vote if you're not in Nigeria, or a Liberian, can't get dual citizenship. Where's the parity towards the diaspora? And the fact that Africa needs to stand on its own, then we can come help. We didn't help when Uganda got its independence in 1962. No.
Did you hear what he said? So he turned this conversation. Nowhere, there's no African. He said they're gonna come and help Africa. You guys heard it. So guys, I'm gonna stop it right here, and I would come back and finish it part 2, and I would open the lines because Lozi wants people to talk about our West African sellouts. So when I come back, I finish this video, finish all of it so you guys can hear what he's saying. So you can call in because I don't want the video to be super long. So you guys can call in. Remember the first part of the conversation about Niger. So write it down. All the sellouts that you want to call out, call them out. Because you guys, Lozi is right, okay? Lozi is correct. Lozi, because I remember Lozi said if this was South Africa, the chat will be writing, would be calling, writing all kind of sellout, calling South Africa sellout. But Lozi, you would have the opportunity in a little bit, when I come back and drop the link, so you can let your Nigerian friends and all the West African friends hear what you have to say. But ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, that's how Oshay is thinking. Clearly, Africa did not call for their help. What can they really help Africa with? African countries, African countries are watching on TV. They're seeing the blacks marching. In fact, some of them probably think the blacks are still, in slavery. To be honest with you, because the images that, especially this BLM is showing to some of the countries there, they are no longer looking at you like the top black. They're beginning to look at you like slavery just, ended yesterday. So try not to, portray yourself that way. I'm just here to break it down to you so you know exactly the type of impression and image you are putting out there. But shout out to Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and Guinea for standing up 10 toes to, Bola Tinubu. Because we cannot say Nigeria. Bola Tinubu showed himself to be the French puppet. But thank God the Nigerian Senate didn't go along. Nigerian citizens didn't go along. So only the president at this point and some of his cronies, we've exposed them as sellouts. I think even my president in the Gambia, Adama Barrow, I've heard some things he said. I think he might be in the sellout club too. Yeah, I think he might be in the sellout club. And President Balo of Guinea-Bissau, America, your president, I think he is part of the sellout group also. But we would cover all of that, when I get back. It would be the conversation. So let's see. But yeah, let Oshay know if you can replace the Chinese, we would definitely love that. We would like that. So therefore, before I leave, I would have to, play the best music this is for ECOWAS. This one here, this is for ECOWAS. I will see you guys shortly.
I can do some shuffling too. Look out, man, what you gonna do? Look out, boys, it's coming through. Yeah, man, yeah, man. Boy, he got educated feet. Boy, I practice all the time. Here's one I sat up all night trying to do. Get this. When the boat dock is Memphis, you should get yourself a job in one of them Beale Street cafes. Boy, you've been reading my mind. Watch me go to Beale Street. Oh, Sam. Oh, Sam. Yes, Sam.